Hello, all. Welcome. Hi, Brenda.
Clayton, it's been a while.
It's been a long while. I know we've talked about getting together, but we never did. So good to see you.
Good to see you.
Jonathan, good to see you. Gary, thanks for coming. And there's a few people here I'm meeting for the first time. So awesome to meet everybody if I've never met you before. I'm just we're gonna wait a little bit, give people some grace in case they're running late or whatever. So we'll give a couple minutes grace. But in the meantime, I'd love just everybody just to throw in the chat where you're from. I know there's people representing all over North America, so awesome to see. Just throw in the chat where you're from and whether you're a visionary or an integrator, because I'm curious. I know there's a few visionaries coming today,
You haven't used it once.
but if you're a second in command, just throw it in the chat there. Brenda's from Connecticut. Open the chat here. Steve's from Chilliwack, BC, a Canadian, good. Minneapolis, California, Nashville, Michigan, and mostly integrators. So that's cool. Not surprising, but I know there's a few visionaries coming too. So,
Hey,
well,
Jonathan.
Hey, Brenda. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
awesome. Some people know each other too. Virginia,
We just saw each other in Denver.
Virginia. There's quite a collection from Virginia. Nice. Denver, Michigan, Texas. Great. So let's wait one more minute and then we'll get going. Thanks everybody for coming. Yeah, so Des Moines, Iowa, awesome. From Utah, so all over the states. We'll see this Canadian talk about the Christ Center Second in Command Network. So awesome. So we'll get started. I know there's others probably going to be joining. Gary, I see you there too. Awesome. So I'm just going to start off. So my name's Clayton Stenson, and I'm the founder of the Christ-Centered Second in Command Network. And I just want to start by praying, if that's okay. So just get everybody to mute if you don't mind, just so we don't have background noise. And it'll help. Oh wait, there we go. So I'll just pray, and then we'll get into this. So Lord, I just thank you for today, and I just pray that your words would run through me, Lord, and this was your idea, it wasn't mine. So I just pray that you would guide this and lead me, and I pray that you would be glorified in this meeting. I pray that you prepare all our hearts to receive whatever it is that you want us to receive today from this webinar. And I just again pray that you would be glorified, and that it would just be a good time and a good connection of many believers from all over the place. In Jesus' name, amen. Awesome. So this week, I was praying and thinking about what should I say in this webinar, and it came to me, I thought it would be a good place to start in defining what the words in the name of the network mean. So that's where I'm going to start. And then I'm going to transition to explaining how we came to be here today, how God led me here. And then lastly, I'm going to spend some time explaining more about what the network is and what we're going to do to serve the members. And after that, I'd love to have, if we have time, some Q&A and get some feedback from all of you on how the network can serve your needs. Because that's why this exists. That's why I'm creating this, is to serve you. And to be honest, like I said, when I was praying, this was not my idea, it was God's idea. And I'm still trying to kind of figure out what he's doing. So any help you could provide would be appreciated. So in preparation for defining these words, I did some research on the term Christ-centered. And on more than one occasion, what I found was a list of behaviors and things that we can do to be Christ-centered. And the problem I find with that is that I've tried that and it doesn't work. Having a checklist or boxes or things to do and checking them off doesn't make you Christ-centered. The reality is that behavior should be the fruit of being Christ-centered, not the other way around. So what is Christ-centered then? So in my research, I found an article by Paul Tripp. He wrote a great article on this, and I'm going to quote a lot from it today, and I'm going to share the quote at the end, or sorry, the link at the end, so you can read this yourself. But in the article, he had 4 words that have helped mold his understanding of what a Christ-centered life looks like. And the first word was source. So Christ-centered life, so this is his words, a Christ-centered life begins with realizing that the source of everything we are is the Lord. He created us, he owns us, he gifted us with talents, he authors our story, and every blessing that we receive comes from him. And then he continues to say, Christ is the source of our daily righteousness. We have no internal desire or moral ability to live up to biblical standards on our own. But in Christ, we have everything we need for godly living. So this is something that I've struggled with over the years. I'm gradually developing a better awareness of my desperate need for him. Marriage and parenting have helped me to realize this more and more. As I've many situations where I fail as a husband and father, and I need to go to both Jesus and my family for forgiveness. And the only way that I improve is through Christ in me. So he is our source, is the first one that Paul shared. The second one was motive. So a Christ-centered life means that a person is the motivation for everything we think, say, and do. So many of us leave little room for Christ in our Christianity. And by that, he means that our ability to keep the law or our pride in historic tradition is often what defines our faith, not the person of Jesus. So he asked in the article, is your Christianity intimate and personal? Do you want to know Christ? Do you want to please him? A Christ-centered life is deeply intimate and motivated by a relationship with Christ. So this was a challenge for me, as I didn't have a good relationship with my dad growing up. And I think sometimes I projected that onto God. So the idea of a relationship with Christ was a bit foreign to me. And when I first came to Christ 16 years ago, when I first came to Christ 16 years ago, but over the years, I'm learning how to walk with Christ and partner with him. And so he's saying he is our motive. He's the reason that we do what we do. The third thing he said was goal. So Christ-centered life has one ultimate goal, that Jesus gets the glory. Now, it's not wrong to pursue personal goals, but the glory of Christ is the orienting compass that gives direction to all other goals. So because we want Christ to be known, honored, worshiped, and obeyed, we submit every other attainable goal to him. Our decisions are no longer controlled by selfish desires, but by new desires that we get from his love. So I remember when I was first saved, I was a very goal-oriented person. I had it all planned out. I had I'm an integrator, so I had like a 20-year spreadsheet of my financial plan. And I had it all planned out and I had it gripped very tightly. But as I've walked with Christ, I've learned to hold my goals more loosely and with an open hand and allow Christ to direct my steps. So don't get me wrong, I still have plenty of selfish desires, but I'm learning slowly that his plans for me are better than my own. So he directs our goals. And then the last thing he said about a Christ-centered life is, the last word was hope. So Christ-centered life finally puts all our eggs in the basket of the word of the Lord. We know that this life is not all there is and that an eternity is coming. And he says, but a Christ-centered life is more than just a ticket out of hell. We have hope in the here and now because Christ has promised his presence and grace for today and until we go home. So this hope, and I just need to have a drink of water. This hope has given me and my wife strength in the hardest of times. In 2014, my wife and I had our first son, Nolan. We were full term, 38 and a half weeks, and my wife went into labor. I took her to the hospital, and after an hour of pushing, they said that we had better do a C-section. We were excited because C-sections are not that out of the ordinary. We knew we'd get to meet our son soon. And he was healthy and there were no issues with him, but when he came out, he wasn't breathing. They asked me to leave the room, and I spent the longest 10 minutes of my life crying out to God and asking him to save my son. And when I re-entered the room after 10 minutes, he still wasn't breathing. My wife was in shock and shaking uncontrollably. And it was like getting hit by a bus. In total, it took 17 minutes to resuscitate him. And then they said, if he lives, there will be major complications. I went with him to the children's hospital, and he lived for 35 hours, and then he died in my arms. And he never made a sound. He never ate or drank. He never peed or pooped. He did hold my finger and he looked me in the eye. But my hope is that he skipped this life. I know that he skipped this life and went straight to the good part. And we will see him again. So, as he said, hope is the fourth word of a Christ-centered life. So the article continues to ask, is my life Christ-centered? Is Christ my source for life? Is he the motivation for everything I do? Is his glory my goal? Is he my hope, both for today and for eternity? And I think a lot competes for center stage in our hearts. But the good news of the gospel is that Jesus accepts us and forgives us even when he's not at the center. And he patiently walks with us and fights for us as we progress to make him the main focus of our lives. So that's the description of the Christ-centered part of the name. The second part of the name, the rest will be a little briefer. So I don't want to be like a pastor and go too long here. So a second in command is someone who's next in rank. So this is a definition I found online. Someone who is next in rank to the leader of a group and who has the authority to give orders when the leader's not there. So the focus of my business is coaching visionaries and second in command leaders. And I think a lot of you are familiar with EOS, or the Entrepreneurial Operating System. In it, one of the key ideas, in case somebody isn't familiar, one of the key ideas is that a company should have a visionary and an integrator, or a second in command at the top of the company. So typically the visionary is the founder of the company, they're an ideas person, and then the integrators is the execution person. They take the ideas and make them happen. Now that's oversimplifying it, but I'm kind of keeping it simple just for the purpose of today's webinar, because I think most of you understand how that works. So the interesting thing about the Christ-centered second in command is that there is a double meaning there. And to be honest, that wasn't actually intentional. The reality is that if we are Christ-centered, then we're by default a second in command. Christ is the leader, and we are his hands and feet to execute his plans. So in a business context, we're second in command to our visionary, but we're also second in command to our Lord. So this may or may not be problematic. This is why values fit so important when you're working with a visionary or an integrator counterpart, because if it comes down to choosing whether to obey your Lord or your visionary, we all know who should win. So that's the second word. Second in command. The last word is network. So I found a few definitions of the word network, and I combined them together to come up with my own definition. And it is a group of people in different places who share interests, help each other, and share information. So now that we've defined all the words separately, I'd like to summarize it all in one definition of the Christ-centered second in command network. So it's a group of second in command people who love God, seek to bring him glory in all areas of their lives, and wish to help others to do the same. So that is kind of a summary of what the name means. So now I'm going to move on. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we ended up here. And this section is really it's a story of my life. I'm not going to go into all the details. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible, but I'll just give you the highlights as far as my faith goes and how we ended up here. And I'm kind of calling this the journey to peace and purpose. So I wasn't a Christian growing up. I went to the church for the first time when I was 18. And I went because my mom said, the United Church wants to give you something because you're graduating, and we're a part of the United Church. And I said, in my mind, I'm like, we're not part of the United Church. We've never been, right? So why are we doing this? But I love my mom, so I said, I'll go. And my experience with Christians up to that point wasn't the greatest. I wouldn't say I was an atheist, but I definitely was agnostic. And I had an uncle that was a professing Christian, was really not a very good guy. So he was kind of an off-putting person in my world. But I went, and then and it was kind of what I expected. I found it quite boring and lots of gray hair and an organ and that kind of thing. And then I went to Australia when I was 21. I was chasing a girl that I thought I was going to marry. And in retrospect, I wish I would have learned about guarding your heart back then before this happened. But God used it in a good way. So I went there. Actually, strange situation. I lived in her parents' house. So they had a suite in the basement. She lived in the basement. I lived with her parents, and she had 3 sisters, and they had no brothers. And her parents were Christians, and they were amazing people. They treated me like a son and poured into my life in an incredible way, even after we broke up about 2 weeks after I got there. And I still lived there for 3 more months after that. And they invested in me, and they planted the seed, for me coming to faith later in my life. So then I returned to Canada, and I struggled for years, about 6 years. I struggled with depression and anxiety. I tried to fill the God-sized hole in my heart with almost everything you can imagine. And eventually I got so depressed, I didn't know what to do. And I was actually at a conference, and one of the speakers said, "You become the average of the 5 people you hang around with most. So choose wisely." And it really resonated with me for some reason. And I looked at my life, and I was like, you know what? I don't really think I want to be like the people that I'm hanging around with right now. So then I thought, well, who do I want to be like? And I made a list of the people. I'm an integrator. I'd make lists a lot. I made a list of the people that had an impact on me, and her parents were at the top of the list, and I had about 10 people on the list. And then I looked at the list, and I said, what do these people have in common? And all of a sudden it hit me. They were all Christians. And I said, okay, well, I think I need to go to church. But I didn't know, I'd never been to church in the city I lived in. So I reached out to one of them, and I said, do you know anybody who lives in Edmonton that goes to a good church? And she introduced me to somebody, and I went to church. I went to coffee with her, and then I went to church with her the next day. And I would say that I was kind of in hermit mode at that time. I was just so depressed and so insecure, and I was such a mess that all I did was I'd go to work, I'd play video games, and I sleep. And I just repeat that every day. And so I went to church, and the message that Pastor Dennis preached that day was called "Giving the Gift That Is You." And it was like he read my mail or was stalking me or something. It was like that story, that sermon was written only for me, because he said that God created you with gifts and abilities inside of you, and you're really missing the purpose for life if you're not using those gifts to glorify God and to serve others. And so it really made me think, but I still wasn't sure, and I lived quite far from the church. But that person who took me to church invited me to the Alpha course. I don't know if any of you have heard of the Alpha course. Throw it in the chat if you have. It's a great program. And I went. And the first lesson of Alpha is Christianity boring, irrelevant, and untrue? ? And it really dispels a lot of the myths that people can have about Christianity. It really made me think again. And then the next 2 lessons are, who is Jesus and why did Jesus die? And I missed them both. The first one I missed because I was sick. And the second one I missed because my grandpa died, and I went to his funeral. And at the funeral, the pastor was talking about his relationship with God and how he led small groups and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, I love my grandpa. My grandpa was amazing, but I never really talked to him about faith before. So I thought, well, if it's good enough for him, maybe I should take this more seriously. And I went back to Alpha, and the leader of the group said, you kind of missed the most important ones. You should probably come to my house and watch those 2. So I did. And I accepted Jesus in his living room that day. And from there, I just dove in. I was just like, you know what, if this is true, then I have to question everything. I can't just go on living like I did. I have to question everything. So I just dove in. I took every course the church offered. I joined a small group. I listened to sermons. I, read my Bible. I just did everything that I could to dig in and renew my mind. And it was an amazing season of growth. And then about a year and a half later, I got hired at that church as a facility manager and kind of ministry assistant, just whatever was needed. And it was exciting. It was my first visionary that I worked with. And I loved it. It was so exciting. He had such a great vision. He was so going for it. Later, I discovered the challenges of working with a visionary, but at first it was so exciting. I worked there for 7 years. And it was the most amazing growth season of my life, where I discovered a lot of my gifts and, was able to invest in a lot of people and serve. And I did become a pastor and so did a couple of weddings. And, but mostly I was kind of the integrator, second in command type of a pastor. And then that season ended when my son died. I tried to work, but I really was a mess. And it really shook my faith. And I took a year off, and then I went and worked at a construction company where I discovered, I'm working with another visionary. And that's where I discovered EOS and eventually became his integrator. And we 22 times the net profit of the business, self-implementing EOS in over a 12-month period. And, especially when I read Rocket Fuel was when I explained this to a lot of integrators, and most of them get it, and visionaries even too. Most of my life, I felt like I didn't fit in because my brain worked differently than other people. And I just felt like I didn't fit. I always felt like an outsider until I read Rocket Fuel. And I went, this is why, right? This is why God made me like this. So and then from there, I ended up leaving that company when COVID hit, and I launched out to do group coaching with a friend of mine who's also Christian. And because I really just felt like God could use my pastoral kind of experience and my experience leading small groups and coaching and mentoring people mixed with my integrator mind to really help people to grow. And over time, I kind of was working to discover my niche and figure out how I could best support the business community in this new role. And so January last year, I started coaching integrators because I felt like there's a lot of integrators that are kind of like me. The book Traction was kind of thrown at me, said, read this and figure it out, implement it in our business. And there wasn't a whole lot of training. And I know that Rocket Fuel 101 and Integrator Masterclass are great, but I think I felt like there needed to be some opportunities to coach integrators, get into the weeds a little bit and support them and have a place for them to chat about things. So that's where I started. And then over time, what kind of happened was last fall, I coached someone, and Joe DePenta, you're here today. You referred me to Mike, who became my first Christian integrator that I was coaching. And I loved coaching him. He's in a tough spot. It was a tough assignment for his first integrator role, but I just loved praying with him, and being able to, speak into his life, but speak into his life in a different way that also, involved faith. And then when I came to the end of my wisdom, and both of us were like, I'm not sure what to do in this situation, we could put it in the hands of God together. Right. And it was just amazing. And I loved it. And I felt God kind of nudging me. So now I'm kind of transitioning into how we got here. I felt God kind of nudging me, saying, you should do more of this. Like, you should do something to help Christian integrators. So it's such an opportunity for us to have such a great influence on companies. So, maybe there's something that you could do, but I didn't know what to do. So I prayed about it, and I bounced it off actually some of the people in this room, what I should do. And I felt like it would be a good idea to start with some sort of a network to bring people together. And there's kind of 3 reasons why I felt it was important. The first was, I felt like integrator loneliness is an issue. When you're an integrator, as most of you know, right? You have to influence down, to the team. You have to influence on the leadership team level, and you have to influence up to the visionary. So you're constantly influencing, and you constantly have to be, holding people accountable. And so it's a very challenging role. Also, last fall, I had a fractional role with a non-Christian visionary, and he was a very emotional. And I found that he would vent like heavily to me, right? And it was good. I knew that I needed to be that for him, but at the same time, I found myself starting to carry this stuff, and it wasn't mine to carry. And I had multiple times I had to be like, okay, wait, I'm carrying this stuff again, right? Like I need to give it to God, and I need to focus on what I can control. And so I realized, like this stuff is solved in community, right? Like if having someone you can talk to about this stuff is really important. So and also helping us to each other to do those things and to invite God in and not carry it ourselves. The second reason why I wanted to do this is I just really want to help people bring glory to God. I like I said before, we have an amazing opportunity to influence so many people and their families in our role, not just to help them be more successful, but potentially to help them to come to know God as well. But how do you do that in a leadership role? How do you do that? And I wanted to create opportunities, to talk about that as well and support each other in our journeys as well. So, and I believe we're not designed to do this alone. We should be doing it together. I'll just share a quick story. When I was a new Christian, I remember really clearly thinking that I was the only one who had issues. And then I joined a small group, and it was called Valiant Man, and it was for men, and it was, not entirely about sexual purity and that kind of thing, but it was, about issues that men have. And I was amazed because I was raised, I grew up on a farm. 117 years this farm has been in my family. I'm the 5th generation. And in my family, I was raised to, suck it up, buttercup, basically. You're a man, you don't talk about your feelings, you don't cry, you just, suck it up, right? And then all of a sudden I'm in this group and people are being really honest and open. And I was like, wow, like this is amazing. I'm not the only one with issues. And it was so encouraging, right? And I think that I'm very passionate about creating those kinds of safe environments where authenticity and vulnerability can happen, and we can support each other and help each other to grow. Because I know when you talk to another integrator, there's lots of laughs and chuckles because you're dealing with the same kinds of challenges. And then the third reason I wanted to do this was connecting amazing people. So I got really serious about LinkedIn about 2 years ago, but about a year ago, I started meeting all these amazing Christian people. And like for one example, I met this guy, his name's Steve, he's in Florida, and we had a great chat, and we talked for like an hour and a half. I think the meeting was supposed to be 45 minutes or something. And we didn't talk about business at all. We just talked about our faith. And then we met again and again. And then the third time he's like, Clayton, I want to mentor you. He's about 20 years older than me. He said, I want to mentor you. I think you're going to do great things, and I want to mentor you. And so the relationship it was so enriching to me. And then I've met so many other great people, including a lot of the ones here in this room. And some of you I don't know, but I've been so blessed and enriched by the relationships that I've developed, people I've never met. Ironically, that I can't even visit right now because I'm not vaccinated, but that's a whole nother conversation. But I've been so encouraged and have had so much increase in my faith in regards to the Big C church and what God is doing all around the world through amazing people that I've met in the last year. So I wanted to create more opportunities to bring those great people together, because I felt like it would be selfish of me to not do that. So that's kind of how we got here. And now I'm going to tell you a bit about what we do, or what we're going to do, and then we'll do the Q&A. So what we do. So monthly webinars is the first thing. So every month, first week of the month, I'm going to host a webinar that will educate, encourage, motivate, or inspire you. And the speakers will be Christian authors, coaches, EOS implementers, visionaries, integrators, pastors. I don't really know entirely who it's going to be yet. I have the next 3 months lined up, but after that, I'm not really sure. So they're going to speak on something related to one of 4 areas. First one is God and faith. Second one is marriage. Second one is family and parenting. And the last is business and leadership. And the reason it's those 4 areas is because I believe that God cares about all areas of our lives. So I don't want it to just be about business and leadership, because I think it's bigger than that. And there will be no charge for any of the webinars. And the next one will be on March 2nd, and the speaker will be an author named Tim Spiker. He wrote a book called The Only Leaders Worth Following. And he's an amazing man that focuses on developing leaders on the inside. In his book, among other things, he says that to be a leader worth following, you have to be inwardly sound and outwardly focused. And when I listened to this book, it actually brought me to tears, because it felt so aligned with God's spirit for leadership. And when I met with Tim for the first time, I said, right at the start, I said, I'm kind of putting myself out here, but you're a Christian, aren't you? And he said, yeah, yes, I am. I said, good, because that could have been awkward if you weren't. But I just felt, I could just feel, God's presence in what he's doing. And he doesn't talk about his faith at all in the book, but it definitely was very apparent. And I'm just going to drop the link to that next webinar in the chat in case you want to come out and check it out. And then the second thing we're going to do is monthly networking. So in the 3rd week of every month, I'll host a networking event at 3:00 Mountain Time on Wednesdays. The goal of this is to bring together, like I said, great people and see what God does. If you come to this, though, I want people to come with a heart to help, not to sell. And I'm sure that sales are going to happen, right? Like, you bring good people together, the variety of people, there's probably going to be relationships built and transactions happening, but that's not the heart of it. I want you to come with that help first attitude and come prepared with 3 things. One, a 1 to 2 minute faith testimony. Secondly, a 1 to 2 minute story of your journey as a second in command. And lastly, a 1 minute summary of what your company does. And there will also be no charge for the networking events. And visionaries are welcome as well. I know there's probably someone in the room saying, you're going to exclude us? Like, come on. So visionaries are welcome, because I don't know what God's going to do, but I think if we bring good people together that love God, he can't do anything bad. It's going to be good. It's going to be great. So I'll drop the link in the chat for that as well, if you want to come. That's the 15th of February. And then the third thing we're going to do is I'm going to create an online community. I've already started working on it. And it's I just want to create a space for us all to stay in touch, recommend resources, share what the Bible is saying to us, ask questions, request prayer, whatever. The sharing resources part, like, I've read so many amazing books, I'm a bit of a book junkie. So, I love to swap book recommendations and different things along the way to help each other to grow. And the community there will be a free community. And then in the future, I'm going to be developing some paid elements as well on the app. But the basic community will always be free. And then the fourth thing is peer groups. So I love small groups. As I said, I've been leading small groups for 15 years in different contexts. And I'm actually close to launching the first kind of beta peer group, hopefully this month. And these peer groups will meet regularly, learn together, pray together, challenge each other, and hold each other accountable. And like I said before, God didn't design us to be able to function apart from community. So these groups will be an inner circle community just for you, that's designed to help you grow and get the support you need to flourish in all areas of life. And these groups will be facilitated by me, and there'll be a paid program as well. Just checking the time here. And then there will be more coming in the future, but I don't know what, because God still hasn't revealed that part to me yet. So before we move on to Q&A, I just want to get your feedbacks. I just want to share a couple scriptures that really are part of why I want to do particularly the peer groups. The first verse is Proverbs 27:17. You probably all heard it. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And in my opinion, we need this in our lives. We need to challenge each other in order to grow. And I personally, I want this in my life. I need this in my life. If I'm going to accomplish what God has put me here to accomplish, I need to be challenged. I need a community to help me to see what I can't see. And I think that's the beauty, even in the visionary and integrator duo, is there's two perspectives that challenge and sharpen each other if it's healthy, right? If you learn, to appreciate the other perspectives, it's amazing how you can be sharpened in that experience of working together with someone very different from you. And the second verse is Ezekiel 33, 1-6. It's a bit longer, but I'm going to read it all. It says, "The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, speak to your people and say to them, when I bring the sword against the land, and the people of the land choose one of their men and make him their watchman, and he sees the sword coming against the land and blows the trumpet to warn the people, then if anyone hears the trumpet but does not heed the warning, and the sword comes and takes their life, their blood will be on their own head. Since they heard the sound of the trumpet but did not heed the warning, their blood will be on their own head. If they had heeded the warning, they would have saved themselves. But if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet to warn the people, and the sword comes and takes someone's life, that person's life will be taken because of their sin, but I will hold the watchman accountable for their blood." So I share this verse because to me, it was a leadership lesson probably about 10 years ago when I read this verse. And I think sometimes we have a hard time having a hard conversation with someone and challenging them in an area they need to grow in. But my interpretation of this verse is that if we don't do it, we'll be held accountable. So if we see a brother or sister doing something that's hurting themselves or limiting their success and we don't say anything, then I believe that we will be held accountable for it. So we must help and challenge each other when we see things that need to change in others. So if you're, basically, even in my coaching of integrators, I can't tell you how many times I've said, you're bringing this up to me, but you need to bring it up to your visionary, because it's not in his best interest or her best interest to continue doing this if it's hurting them or hurting their company. You need to bring it up. You need to bring it up in a respectful way. And one situation, I even said, like, it may cost you your job, but you need to be okay with it because it's what's best for them, right? And if you don't bring it up, then I think you're going to be held accountable. Like, there's going to be some guilt there. So you need to act on it. So if you're one of those people, just saying, that wants a watchman or multiple watchmen, men or women in your life, then get connected here in this network. Come to the networking events, join a peer group. Let's support each other and let's bring God glory. So before we switch to Q&A, I'll just say that if what I've shared today resonates with you, I'd love to have a chat. I'll drop a calendar link in the chat today. Please, right now, actually, please go ahead and book a time and let's get to know each other. And I'd be honored to chat and see how I can help you on your journey in any way. And if this network is God's will and it's going to grow, I want to involve other people as well, and let's work together to have a greater impact for God's glory. So I'm just going to drop the link in the chat, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. So sorry. So yeah, so anybody have any questions, comments, feedback, ideas? I'd love to hear what you guys think. And I'm having a drink. Herbert.
Yeah, just a quick comment. Clayton,
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the Lord. This is a great idea, and look forward to participating.
Awesome. Thanks, Herbert. Great.
Yeah, I'll just second that. Yeah, just say thanks for bringing this together. I'm sure people will be coming and going. We'll get to know each other.
Yeah.
What you laid out today sounds exciting. I look forward to participating and seeing where the Lord takes it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan. And also, if anybody has any questions on anything else, like if you're sitting here today and you're maybe something that I said triggered a challenge that you're having as well, I'm happy to go there. We have 20 minutes left. If there's a situation that's on your heart that you're like, I need this now, right? Like I can't wait until 2 weeks from now or till a peer group launches. It's like I need advice now. Or if you have a question like that, I know almost not everybody here, but I know a lot of the people here like this. I believe this is a safe place if you want to share something. There's even EOS implementers in the room that would have stuff to say. Wes, did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, Clayton, I just wanted to say, we haven't known each other for very long, but I'm very pleased to see the direction that you're moving in with this. I think that there are a lot of people who can benefit from a network like this because we all have areas where somebody coming alongside and sharpening us would be really useful. And in business, it can sometimes be difficult to find people who put those other priorities in the right place. So I'm glad to see this moving forward.
Awesome. Thanks, Wes. And Jim, I'll get to you just a sec. I know Kenny asked me in the chat, do you have to run on EOS to participate, or are other frameworks welcome? Anyone's welcome. Anyone who's a second in command. Just the reality for me is EOS is what I know, is what I was raised in, I guess, as far as operating systems go. But I think the more important thing is that you're Christ-centered and that you are a second in command. It's more important than EOS itself. So Jim, you have something to share?
Sure. So I am an EOS implementer out of Spokane, Washington. Excited for what you guys are doing. I just want to encourage you. I'm guessing out of the 600 EOS implementers, 150 to 200 are probably believers. There's a Slack channel where we talk and share with each other. Don Tinney, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that name. He was the first person that Gino Wickman brought on board to help him. He is an incredible believer, incredible man of God. Our current CEO and COO are believers, which gives me real hope in terms of just the faith that runs through the EOS community. And so I would encourage you to reach out. I know most of you are just probably you're doing it yourself. You're not looking to hire anybody. And I'm not pushing for that at all. I'm just saying, reach out and EOS implementers, one of our core values, and I think it goes double for those of faith, is help first. And from personal experience and just the ones that I know and interact with, love to help people that are in the EOS community in some form or fashion. So I just want to encourage you to reach out and connect. And if you want to know like who maybe in your area is a believer, you want to reach out to me and ask that, I'd be happy to make introductions.
Absolutely. I've met with, I think, probably about 15 EOS implementers that are Christians, and it's been amazing. It's been amazing. There's just the help first attitude. And I love that's one thing I love about the EOS community as well. And Joe DePinta here is also an EOS implementer in Canada as well. And he's been a blessing to me as well. Anything else? Anybody? Any issues, or we can IDS? And Kenny's just saying he's with the System and Soul framework. And yeah, I've met with Benj Miller, who's awesome as well. Christian guy who was, I think, co-founded that, and we're meeting on Friday, and yeah, he's awesome guy too. All right, well, anyone else? Anything else to say? Any questions, comments, ideas? I will also welcome any introductions you might have for speakers. Maybe I'll tell you a little bit about the other speakers that are coming up. So Tim is in a month. In 2 months, I'm going to have, his name is Blake Brewer on, and his story is when he was 19, he went on a holiday to Hawaii, and he said it was the best day of my life. I was snorkeling with my dad in Hawaii. It was just incredible. And then my dad drowned. And he said all of a sudden it was the worst day of his life, which I resonate with, because that's kind of what was like when my son was born and then wasn't breathing. So anyways, he he said they were doing CPR on him and he's crying out to God, and and then he died. And then a couple days later, his mom found a letter that his dad wrote. But it was a legacy letter, and it was just he spent about 2 or 3 months writing it, and just very intentionally writing it. And he said it was such an incredible blessing to him and his brother and sister that really helped them kind of through that season and imparted wisdom to them that his dad wrote in this letter. And so now fast forward, I don't know how many years, 10, 15 years. Now that's what Blake does. Is his company is called the Legacy Letter Challenge, and he teaches people how to write legacy letters for their children. And I just thought he'd be a great speaker, because I think sometimes we're too busy. We get too busy to really do those kinds of things, to really speak into the lives of each of our kids and our or even our parents and our sister, brother, whoever, anyone important to us in our lives. And I just thought it would be a kind of a inspiring talk that would challenge us to do better in that area. And then the month after that, I'm having someone named Rob Hughes come in and speak, and he's with Hughes Integrated. They're a marketing company, but he's a Christian as well, and he runs on EOS and StoryBrand, if you're familiar with the StoryBrand model. And he's doing a speech or a message about how to integrate faith into your business and into your message. So he's going to be sharing something along those lines as well. And then I have a pastor here locally that's going to speak probably the month after that on marriage. Him and his wife are going to speak, and they have an amazing marriage. So, just some examples of what's upcoming. So I hope you guys, I hope this resonates. I hope it adds value to you and improves your life and helps you to know God better and bring him more glory. That's the heart behind it. So if nobody else has any questions, we can wrap up. If you need to go, it's all good. You can go, but thank you for coming.
Clayton,
Thanks for putting this together. I'm excited.
yeah, thanks so much. I've been excited ever since we talked about it a few months ago. So I appreciate the opportunity, and just looking around the room too. I think a lot of people are working from home these days as well. And
Yeah.
So being able to have it, I look forward to when we can do it in person instead of on Zoom now.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking about lately. Like, depending on what happens with this, like at some point I'd love to have, maybe Denver or somewhere central, like come together and do some kind of a conference or something.
And you said you're going to connect us all through like a Slack channel or something as well, or?
Yeah, I was going to do Slack, but instead I'm building an app. I signed up for an app.
Okay.
So I'm going to be launching that here sometime in February. I just have to do some work to prepare it. I'll probably just launch it really simply without a lot of flash. And just, it'll be a good place just to connect and get to know each other as well. But yeah, thanks for coming, Jeremy. Nice to see you. Jonathan, you're unmuted too. Well, 2 Jonathans are unmuted, so I don't know what to do.
I already spoke.
Awesome. Did you have something you wanted to say, or you just accidentally unmuted?
No, I'm good. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thomas, we've never met. Ashley, we've never met. Tanya, we've never met. Brian, never met. And then Chelsea, I met Megan. So I heard about you. So awesome. Well, guys, let's wrap it up then, if no one else has any questions. And yeah, follow the LinkedIn page. Sorry, I just remembered I'm going to drop something else in the chat here. So if there's any of these things that you want to access, I'll just do it quick. So oops, almost sent it to Kenny only there. So Paul Tripp's article, it's a great article. The links to the webinar and the networking event, and I put a link to Tim's book in there. I'd highly recommend it. It's such a good book. And then the LinkedIn page. I'll be posting on the LinkedIn page upcoming events, so follow there if you're on LinkedIn. And otherwise, have a great day. God bless.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.